and welcome back to In Conversation with the Poetry Cove magazine. My name's Adam Gary, I'm the founder of the Poetry Cove, and today I'm really excited to be sitting and talking to TikToker and poet Sarah Goldney. Welcome to In Conversation. Welcome to the Poetry Cove,
Thank you
Sarah.
so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm really excited to talk to you, and I guess we're just going to jump straight in, and I'm just going to ask you probably the basic question, but it'll get things rolling. How long have you been writing poetry for?
So I think officially I've started writing poetry properly in 2020 in lockdown. So I was just on TikTok. TikTok was a big thing in lockdown, scrolling through TikTok and saw some poetry on there. And I've always been interested in kind of songwriting, lyrics, getting my emotions into words has been a thing that I've always enjoyed doing. But when I saw sort of poetry come up on my TikTok, I was like, I could give that a go. And then I wrote some things, and that's just kind of how it started. And then I started just posting it for fun, and people seem to enjoy it.
I love it. So what like how or why are you drawn to poetry? Why did you pick poetry, say, instead of painting or
That's an interesting one. I mean, I'm very creative. I like a lot of different creative outlets. I really enjoy painting. That was kind of my thing when I was little. And then I think I just like getting emotions into more malleable forms, like words and writing and drawings and things like that. Because I think I just like to see it. I like to be able to see it and to hear it rather than just think it. So definitely, when I started writing things down, I was like, it's nice to be able to read things back and hear it out loud. And especially putting music behind poetry has become a thing that I really enjoy doing, just because it makes it into more of a song, because I enjoy songwriting as well. So
okay,
yeah.
Nice. Poetry has, just from those first two questions, it sounds like you've had quite a similar journey to me. Poetry has obviously had a huge resurgence in the last 7 years or whatever, mostly because of Instagram and Insta poets. As you say, I was just scrolling through Instagram, and I'd already kind of dabbled in poetry before and wanted to get into poetry, but it wasn't until I found Instagram and started thinking, oh, this is like a way of getting things out there. Obviously Instagram is slowly, I don't know how you feel about Instagram. I have very, very strong opinions of Instagram. And I feel like it's slowly dying out, and we're very much coming into the age of TikTok now. I guess you've kind of already answered it, but I just wondered how you feel about releasing your art onto TikTok and how that might differ to Instagram, I guess, and your views on how poetry is moving forward into the social media world.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I never saw any kind of poetry on Instagram. I think because I don't really use Instagram as much as I started using TikTok, because TikTok was kind of a lockdown sensation that kind of blew up. But I'd never really seen poetry on Instagram before. I've only just recently started a poetry Instagram, because I know that that's a thing that expands to a lot of people. But I get what you mean. I think it was, obviously I enjoyed writing poetry a little bit before I'd been introduced to social media and the idea of putting my poetry on social media, but that definitely kick-started it, because I think I was like, it would be nice if I could share this with other people, and especially getting other people's ideas on TikTok. Like, people would comment things on TikToks being like, can you write about this? Can you put my feelings into words for me? And I think it's just nice. It's a nice sense of community to be able to let other people enjoy it, and then also help other people by creating things that they might not necessarily be able to do themselves.
Yeah, and I think you already sort of mentioned that you songwrite and stuff, which is awesome, and music. I think TikTok, really, the whole multimedia thing is probably another big reason why poetry is becoming more and more popular, because obviously you can make videos and short films to your poems and add songs to it. So I guess TikTok has that. I know obviously you got YouTube Shorts now, and you got Instagram Reels. Because of TikTok, they're trying to keep up, but I guess TikTok really kind of added that element to it. Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think like you said, the being able to use sounds is one of the things that has really like let TikTok blow up, because I think people enjoy being able to take other people's audios that they've created and using them for videos themselves. Yeah, I think that, especially obviously Instagram is very much, you can read a poem, but you have to internalize it yourself, whereas TikTok, you can hear people read it in the voice that they want to. A lot of the comments that I get on mine are like, I want to be able to hear you read it from your perspective, kind of thing. So I think it's a very like personal like audio experience from TikTok that you wouldn't be able to get on Instagram, which is probably why that's kind of piqued my interest more than Instagram.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm repeating myself here now, because I'm trying to slyly look to my questions, and I guess as we talk, we kind of answer them just naturally. But what came first, a love for poetry, or just as a young adult, you know, naturally drawn to social media and stuff? I think you said you sort of dabbled in poetry before TikTok, but did you feel like TikTok was sort of the release for that, to really kind of pursue it and go with it?
Yeah, I think so, because I mean, I dabbled in it before like TikTok was a thing, before I started a TikTok account, but more in the sense of like, I would do a lot of journaling. I would kind of just write my ideas down. I wouldn't take it very seriously, but then I started seeing some videos on TikTok of people putting poetry to music, and I think that was kind of the thing that made me interested in it. And then I thought, oh, if I could put my poetry with music, maybe it would sound good. And I tried it out and I put it on TikTok, and some people seemed to like it, and I was like, I could get behind doing this. Like I just enjoyed it as a hobby, and but I definitely think that TikTok was something that kind of elevated it, and that I wouldn't have taken my poetry to social media unless I'd have seen that was a thing on TikTok, I don't think.
Would you recommend, because I don't know if you know, I basically do YouTube videos doing tips and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, because of, you know, poets like Rupi Kaur and Atticus and stuff, have done so well out of Instagram. They're really focused on Instagram. And when TikTok first came out, I was telling people, like, get on TikTok, because that's the new platform. Do you have any kind of words of encouragement? Anyone who's like, just, no, I'm not going to do TikTok.
I mean, I think TikTok is a really good opportunity, because obviously it's very big right now, and for me, it is more like, you can have what you have on Instagram, you can have words written out, you can have your poems in the flesh on TikTok, but you can also have your voice and you can have music, and it kind of just adds another dimension to it that I think makes it like more accessible to different people. Because especially for like Instagram, I know like the deaf community is a big thing, and like it just makes it a lot more accessible to a lot of people on TikTok, I feel like. And I'd say just go for it. And it can be quite scary. I know when I first posted my first TikTok of my poetry, it was terrifying, because it's your voice and it's your words coming out, like you're saying them, you're not just writing them down. So it is a big step, but it can definitely be really rewarding. And I think it is something that, like, if you're interested in poetry and people are writing poems anyway, I think it's a good thing that can like advance your poetry. Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to show your face either. You know, you can like make short little films or whatever. But I definitely think with the sounds and the music and being able to read the poem and stuff is definitely adds like a whole other element.
Yeah, definitely.
Touching on TikTok and like your experience with TikTok, you have like 136,000 followers plus. Yeah. As someone with that amount of influence, do you feel any sort of responsibility when you're creating your content, or even burden? Is there a burden that comes with it, or are you just riding the wave?
I would definitely say as it's got bigger, I felt a lot more responsibility. I wouldn't say burden. I think there's been times when I've been like, oh, maybe this is a lot of pressure, but then it is definitely more rewarding than it is a burden to me. Like, I think when I first started, I was just doing it for me. I was like, I'm just gonna do what I want. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But as I've got more of a following, I have felt a bit of a responsibility to keep up with things and to be posting things that other people are gonna like. And I have caught myself being like, oh, like I don't really know if I really like this, but I'm going to put it out there because someone else might like it, kind of thing. And I think it's just like trying to keep my head screwed on and trying to be like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. But then also not getting dragged down in the fact that people like I don't have the time to be posting all the time. I'm a full-time student, so it is a bit of responsibility to keep people happy, but I'm trying. I try to just go with the flow and just post what I want to post when creative ideas come to me.
I think I guess I kind of wanted to talk to you about that specifically as a bigger creator, because I know certainly with Instagram, and again, I have very strong opinions with Instagram, but all social media is the same. I find that when I read through our members' discussions and stuff on the forum, a lot of them get so discouraged very easily, and myself included at times as well, because they're battling algorithms. You know, and I have such strong opinions, but I guess I want to know if you have any advice to any of our members who, you know, aren't really getting the traction that they want. But, you know, I try and tell people all the time, it's not necessarily your work. In fact, usually it's not your work. It's because you're battling quite a harsh algorithm. And I guess I just want to know what your opinion on that is, if you have any advice for them.
I've definitely had that struggle at some point. When I first started posting things, there was times when I wasn't getting any views, and I thought, well, I don't know if I want to do this because people aren't enjoying it. It's like I thought it was my fault. I was like, oh, I've been writing bad poems, like everything's going downhill, kind of thing. But I would definitely say just keep posting and writing what you want to write and what makes you kind of come alive. Like there's always, whenever I write poems that I really enjoy and like have a lot of emotion behind them, I get a bit of a spark from it. I kind of get a lot of adrenaline from writing them, and it's when I write poems like that I'm like, I know that I'm going to be happy posting this, and even if no one wants to read it and no one wants to listen to it, I'll still be happy that I've posted it. And I think it's just a concept of like keep going and keep doing what you love, because at the end of the day you're doing it because you love doing it. Yeah, and I guess exactly that last bit is probably, if it was on paper it would be in bold, like do it because you love it rather than because an algorithm isn't going in your favor. Okay, cool. So I guess let's move away from sort of social media stuff for a second. I want to talk about your collection before I forget to say, what was the first step you took to putting your collection together? So I'd been posting my poems on TikTok, and I'd been making a collection. I have a book full of all of my poems that I've written since I started posting them on TikTok, and even before then. And I had never really been a concept to me that I could write a book. I'd never thought about it. I'd never thought about like physically putting my poems down somewhere and releasing it to people. But someone commented on one of my videos and was like, I'd love to see your poems written down, because obviously TikTok's a very like audio thing and visual, it's not a physical thing. And a few people started commenting saying we kind of want to just see it or be able to like have it. And I was terrified. I was like, that is really scary that people are going to be able to have my thoughts in their hands. But I just thought for this project, I kind of wanted to just get everything that I had made previously in the 2 years that was kind of over lockdown, because that was when I was like at my most creative, had a lot of ideas flowing, and just put them into a collection of things that was all kind of things that I'd just let out and wanted to say to different people. And I thought if I just let it be a kind of, there was not a lot of structure, just kind of put all of the poems that I had together in a collection, so I could be like, this is the first things that I created ever, because I think that's quite nice to have a little just archive of like my first ever poems that I like creatively chose to produce and put out into the world. So that was just kind of how it came about. Yeah.
You said something at the top of that actually I was like, oh wait, I don't know if you saw me go, you said something that was really interesting. I find, at least in my mindset, and I would argue that it's probably most people's mindset, when I think about like poetry nowadays and it kind of being on social media, I kind of think of that as, I don't know how to put it, like an add-on. Like the social media post is an add-on from the words on the page. But I just realized you said something like, you obviously started out doing social media and stuff, and then you thought you got comments saying, oh, I'd love to see this on the page. So it's almost a reverse of like, your main body of work is multimedia and videos and stuff, and then the add-on is the book. I thought that was kind of a interesting way of looking at it, at least for my mindset anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I did find it weird kind of going backwards, because I was like, well, everyone's already seen this stuff. Like, this is where it's come from, my TikToks. They've seen it, they've heard it all, and now they want to see it again, but just written down on paper. And I was a bit skeptical about producing it, because I thought, what, like, people might not want to read it if they can already see it on TikTok. It's fully accessible on TikTok for free. They can listen to it, they can read it. But I was just getting quite a lot of, I don't know, interest in having it as a physical thing. And I just thought it would be quite nice. Once the idea was in my head, I was stuck on it. So
yeah, I really want to run with this because I find it interesting. So as someone who makes TikToks and stuff, that's obviously what your how to put it, that's your forte, I guess. How did it feel? Did you feel any kind of pressures when you saw it on paper? Did you think, oh well, that's not quite as exciting because you can't hear my voice or you can't see me? How did that feel, just seeing it was just words and paper?
It was definitely different. I remember when I finished formatting and writing everything and I had it all laid out, I read through it for like a final time before I was gonna submit it to be printed, and I was like, but people aren't going to read it in the way that I read it in my head. Like, it's not going to come out the same.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what? It's actually it'll be quite nice, because even though I have a way that I read it, and obviously a lot of people enjoy listening to that, it's nice. I think it's nice for other people to be able to personalize them and read them in their own way, and they'll say it differently in their head or read it out loud or whatever. And then I was also like, it would be nice for people to have it on paper and be able to annotate. Or some people have messaged me recently being like, I've done some kind of annotations or drawings like to go with the poems, and I was like, it's nice for other people to be able to like make it their own.
Because there's that famous saying, isn't there, like with any sort of, I guess it's stronger with poetry, but any sort of art, once you publish it, like once it's no longer your poem, it becomes the reader's poem, and how they interpret the poem and how they, as you say, they read the poem. Whereas with like social media recordings and stuff, there's still that element of your ownership because you're reading it the way you read it. So I guess that would have been a bit worrying for you the first time, going, well, actually, these poems in this book, they're no longer mine. They're the readers now. So going back to the collection, is there like an overarching theme? Do you find yourself more drawn to certain types of poems, certain themes?
I mean, for this collection, like I said, it was kind of just, I got all of the poems that I'd had from the past 2 years and put them together into a collection. And I did think about ordering them into different themes and kind of like structuring it, but then I kind of just went against it, and I was like, I want it to be a bit unhinged and a little bit just like it's thrown together. It's just all of my thoughts, because they didn't come out in specific orders. They didn't come out like according to what I wanted to do on specific themes. Like, I didn't structure it that way. I kind of just wanted it to be more natural. But I think I kind of get drawn to poems about either experiences that I've had or experiences that other people have told me, and I like to like express. A lot of them are about love, and a lot of them are about kind of people. I like thinking about how people work and how people connect. I think that's one of the things that always really interests me. I find myself writing about that a lot, like just human connections and how we kind of interact, because it's just something that I like to think about.
Fair enough. Again, a lot of our members are sort of aspiring poets and kind of want to do what you've accomplished and stuff, and put books together. What would you say, now that you've gone through the whole process, and obviously it's a huge steep learning curve the first time you do it, what would you say in your opinion is the most important part of putting a collection of poetry together?
I think putting poems into a collection that you enjoy to read yourself and that you're proud of, because I definitely, when I was going through and picking what poems I wanted to put into the collection, I found myself looking at a lot of them and being like, I enjoy that one, but like I don't feel a lot when I read it. Like I can write poems and I don't really like them like a lot of the time, which I'm sure everyone does. But I think just making sure that like it's something that you read and you're like, do you know what, I'm really happy that I wrote that, and I feel like someone would enjoy that. Because I think even if like it's not my like all obviously they're not all my best poems that I've ever written, but I just think that someone could enjoy them and they'll resonate with someone, which is all I want from the book.
Yeah, and just do it as well, because I think
Yeah.
that famous saying of there's never the perfect time. You know, a lot of our members, they want to put a book together, but again, they're scared whether anyone would want to read it and stuff. But I think it's important to kind of just forget all of that at some point and just be like, look, if you want to put a book of poems together, then go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I had so many moments when I was writing it, and I thought maybe I could just leave it a year and I will have, obviously, because I'm going to grow as a person, I'm going to advance as a poet. I was like reading a lot of them and I thought maybe I could wait a bit and write a few more poems that I'm going to like a bit more. But then I thought if I wait a month, I'm going to get to that point and then I'll say it again and I'll keep doing it until I never end up publishing anything. And then at that point I thought I'm just going to get what I have, and I'm going to take that as the collection of like my first poems and put it out and just see what happens. And I'm so glad that I have.
Yeah. I suppose there's that danger of over editing as well. Like, don't get me wrong, editing your poems and stuff is very important, but there is also, I think, a point where you can over edit it, and you kind of got to just trust that the soul of the poem is still there, and you've done your homework. In terms of writing poetry, then I'm just curious, you said you like watching people, do you have like a process to writing poetry, or does it just kind of hit you and then you just sit down and write the poem and then leave it alone? Or because for me, I don't know if you can tell, basically I'm in a garden shed. This is like my writing space. I have this shed, I got a desk, I got my chair, and I kind of have a ritual, because I think sometimes at least for me, like I want to be a working poet, right? So sometimes you have to go to the poem rather than wait for the poem to come to you. So I'm just wondering, do you have like any rituals or processes?
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. Like I have had a lot of times when I've sat down and I've kind of tried to force myself to be creative and it goes nowhere. I feel like sometimes you're trying to force creativity out, it's never going to come. But a lot of the time things will just come to me when I'm just in the most awkward places and I have to just get my phone out and quickly write it down. But most of my like the poems that I've really enjoyed writing are when I tend to go to places that make me feel really calm and let me just kind of think. So I like to go to the beach a lot, and I'll sit on the beach just on my own with my notepad and my pen and just kind of write whatever comes to me. Or when I'm at home, I kind of just sit. I have a little area like you. I'll just sit in my room and I will like not have any distractions and kind of just sit in my head for a bit, and then whatever comes out, I'll write it down. And I'll get to the end sometimes and think, I don't like any of that, but like it's sometimes just nice to get it out. And I guess that's what I do. Kind of just like to be zen.
Yeah, sometimes like not every, as you've said, not every poem is going to be amazing and stuff, but sometimes you kind of just gotta, I like to think of it as like, I think it's a famous saying, I'm sure, because I would have picked it up from somewhere, but I've latched onto it. Sometimes you got to just clear the pipes, of all the junk, get rid of all of that so the good stuff can kind of come through. Okay, cool. So finally, if any of our Covers or members kind of want to know more about your work and what you do, how can they find you?
So I have my TikTok account, which is Sarah.Goldney, and then I've also just recently started a poetry Instagram, which is Sarah Goldney Poetry. So all of the stuff that I release will be on those accounts. And
your book is on Amazon? And
yes, my book is on Amazon. My links are in my social accounts. Yeah.
Okay. In your link tree.
Yeah.
Cool, brilliant. Thank you so much for talking with me, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, all the best with everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.